And she also attacked Twitter and Elon and finished it all with "fuck Donald Trump." So it's one of the reasons why she's not like the ideal choice for the lead role in Sweet Snow White.
Hollywood has seen its fair share of box office disasters, but this was a whole new level of failure. Disney's Snow White remake wasn't just a flop. It was a full-blown catastrophe. And for Rachel Zegler, the actress once hailed as Hollywood's next big star, reality hit hard as she sat in a near-empty theater watching her own movie crash and burn in real time. What was supposed to be a bold reimagining of a beloved classic became the cautionary tale of the year, one that left Zegler at the center of a Hollywood disaster no one saw coming. Or did they? Buckle up, because we're breaking down the rise and brutal fall of Disney's Snow White, and the moment it all went downhill. March 25th, 2025 was supposed to be a special night for Rachel Zegler. With the weight of an iconic role on her shoulders, she did what many actors in her position would do. She went to see the film herself, accompanied by a small group of loyal friends, including Ilda Mason, Jorge Mason, Remy, and Maria Isabel Demison. Zegler took a seat in a near-empty theater, ready to witness her own work on the big screen. Unfortunately, there weren't many others willing to do the same. Thanks to Ilda's Instagram stories, the world got a first-hand look at the awkward reality of Snow White's premiere night. With seats left vacant and an eerie silence hanging over the room, Ilda tried to inject some enthusiasm by shouting Zegler's name as it flashed across the screen. The response? A forced laugh and an uncomfortable cheer from Rachel herself. Whether they had rented out the theater or simply had the misfortune of experiencing an utterly vacant screening was unclear. But the optics were undeniable. Nobody showed up for Snow White. The numbers weren't any kinder than the attendance. Opening to a dismal $43 million, Snow White didn't just flop, it disintegrated. For comparison, The Little Mermaid remake managed a $95 million debut, and even Dumbo, widely regarded as one of Disney's weaker live-action adaptations, performed at a similar level with a fraction of Snow White's budget, and that budget was astronomical, clocking in at over $250 million before marketing costs, making Snow White one of Disney's most expensive failures to date.
Vote for Kamala Harris. And it's actually non-negotiable. Our rights are on the line, folks. Our reproductive rights. Come on, go vote blue. And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
The warning signs were there from the start. Social media was flooded with images of empty seating charts, while some fans joked about setting up a GoFundMe to help Disney recoup its losses. But it wasn't just audiences who turned away. Critics eviscerated the film, and industry insiders whispered about just how badly things had gone off the rails behind the scenes. If box office numbers weren't enough of a disaster, the resurfacing of past comments from Zegler added fuel to the fire. In a now viral clip, she once confidently declared that audiences would wait in line to see her movies. The irony was deafening, as social media users ruthlessly mocked her over the film's dismal turnout. "Welcome back to reality, princess," one commenter quipped, while conservative commentator Ian Miles Chong labeled Snow White Disney's lowest-performing live-action remake in decades.
But the lead actresses, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, are making it very, very difficult for me to believe that there's anything redeeming about this project whatsoever. The women they cast for these roles are just making the situation worse with how they're defending them.
And it wasn't just strangers on the internet taking shots. Jonah Platt, son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, took to Instagram in a now-deleted comment to call Zegler out for her role in the film's failure. According to multiple sources, Jonah revealed that his father had to personally intervene, flying across the country to urge Zegler to rein in her controversial statements. Her refusal to do so, he argued, directly contributed to the film's struggles. Behind the scenes, things weren't much better. While Snow White was in production, Rachel Zegler and co-star Gal Gadot, who played the evil queen, appeared to get along fine. But as the film's release drew closer, tensions reportedly exploded. The biggest issue? Politics. Sources claim that Zegler's outspoken political views, including a particularly inflammatory Instagram post targeting Trump supporters, placed her at odds with Gadot. Given Gadot's background and the controversies surrounding her own political affiliations, the fallout became a major headache for Disney. The situation escalated to the point where extra security had to be hired for Gadot due to threats she received online. Adding to the speculation, Zegler's Oscar night jab at Gadot did not go unnoticed. When asked about her co-star in an Instagram reply, Zegler seemingly dismissed Gadot's acting prowess by labeling her a professional pageant queen. The internet quickly dissected the remark, calling it a subtle but deliberate dig. And just before the film's release, Zegler's glowing tribute to the Snow White crew conspicuously left out any mention of Godot. Coincidence? Unlikely. From the moment Rachel Zegler was cast as Snow White, backlash was inevitable. Much like the controversy surrounding Halle Bailey's casting as Ariel in The Little Mermaid, Zegler faced criticism for not matching the traditional depiction of the fairy tale princess. Rather than approach the criticism diplomatically, Zegler took a combative stance, firing off a now-deleted post stating, "Yes, I am Snow White. No, I am not bleaching my skin for the role." While her defenders applauded her boldness, detractors saw it as yet another example of her alienating potential audiences. Then came her now infamous interview comments. In a 2022 interview with Extra, Zegler referred to the original 1937 Snow White storyline as weird and took issue with the film's romantic plot. "There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird," she remarked. In reference to Prince Charming, Disney had already signaled its intent to modernize the story, but Zegler's words gave the impression she was outright dismissing the beloved classic, an opinion that did not sit well with longtime Disney fans. The controversies didn't end there. When Peter Dinklage publicly criticized Disney for continuing to depict the Seven Dwarfs in a way he deemed offensive, the studio panicked. In an attempt to sidestep controversy, Disney scrapped the Seven Dwarfs entirely in favor of CGI-generated characters. The result? A disastrous misfire that only alienated fans further. Audiences recoiled at the bizarre, lifeless digital creations, adding yet another layer of failure to an already doomed production. Perhaps the biggest sign of Snow White's impending disaster was Disney's quiet, almost secretive approach to its release. Instead of the typical grand Hollywood premiere, the studio opted for a subdued pre-party and a low-key screening at El Capitan Theater. The European premiere was similarly understated, held in a northern Spain castle rather than the usual glitzy affair in London's Leicester Square. It was clear Disney was bracing for impact, hoping to minimize the fallout. So, how did it all go so horribly wrong? Snow White wasn't just a failed movie. It was a textbook case of how not to handle a big-budget remake. From miscalculating audience expectations to mishandling PR disasters, Disney made nearly every mistake imaginable. Meanwhile, Rachel Zegler's approach to public relations, whether through her interviews, social media presence, or feuds, only worsened the situation. Ultimately, Snow White will go down as one of Disney's most expensive and controversial misfires. Whether Rachel Zegler can recover from this career-defining failure remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. In Hollywood, the bigger the rise, the harder the fall.